Hello and welcome to this week's video on My Hero Academia. This week I'm reviewing the episode titled The End of an Era and the Beginning. And we kick off this review, as we always do with these reviews, by talking about the positives and the headline positives. The big things I'll be discussing over the course of this review. This was a big, edgy episode. The animation and design work was fantastic and had some amazing moments of character. Yes, I know I am repeating some major talking points from the previous video, but hey-ho, I mean, there's no getting away from the fact that there is just so much brilliant, amazing quality and material here that, yeah, we're going to see the same headlines coming along. But nonetheless, I will admit, as we get into this review, the editing on this video might be a tad slack here and there. That's because today is my birthday and I don't want to spend all day editing a video. And with that in mind, I hate to say it, but hey-ho! You know, seeing it's my birthday, you might as well like and subscribe and do all the YouTuber stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because we're still in that weird period where YouTube's deleting views for no good damn reason. But with that said, let us get on to the review itself and just say, look, what better way to spend the morning of your birthday than watching one of your favourite comic book characters getting the merry hell beaten out of him? Part of me just wants to skip talking about all the stuff with All Might getting his face pushed in for the good better part of 15 minutes and just skip to the stuff that happens in the final act, because that seems like that's going to be the major moment that many of the reaction channels are going to be going potty over. And I will admit, from my point of view, when that happened, it was definitely an "oh fuck" moment from me when it came along. Like, I want to talk about that final act stuff, but we'll do shortly. We'll get onto that, don't worry, we'll get onto that. Now, I will admit that this week's episode was one that I was kind of dreading, due in no small part to me seeing the preview to this week's episode. In hindsight, I wish I'd never have done that, mostly due to the fact it meant I spent most of the episode fearing that what the hell was going to happen to All Might here, because what features in the preview for this week's episode was the bit where All For One is holding up All Might, and there's just me for the past few days thinking, oh no, there was just a part of me thinking about this episode which was trying to cope away that it couldn't be All Might that he's holding. Like, I'm trying to recontextualise anything and everything that I might have heard over the past few months and past year or so leading up to this. Like, I've done my best to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but you know how people on YouTube be when it comes to spoilers. Many of them will quite happily put it front and centering their bloody YouTube thumbnails, for God's sake, let alone anything else. So there was just part of me just thinking, okay, it can't possibly be him. It's probably like a copy or a clone, or maybe he's turned twice into like an All Might clone so that he draws out Midori, because, you know, he wouldn't kill All Might. No. He'd have him to one side so he can touch him so that he can kill Midori, and oh yeah, that's what he's going to do. It can't possibly him. It can't possibly be him. Oh no. And as we got into this week's episode, we kick off with that moment, the animated sequence. Like last week, it had the same thing, but I was wondering as to whose point of view that we were seeing, because they had the messed up hand, and for a minute there I was thinking like it was some kind of older version of Midoriya, but no, it isn't. We kick off this episode and have moments throughout this where we're seeing All Might reflecting back, looking back at his childhood, looking back, and I think the storybook that he's reading is a real one in Japan, or a pastiche one at the very least, and all the while as that's going on, and the lead up to this week's episode, I'm starting to dread it in the same way you kind of dread having a big test. Like, you know you're going to walk out the other side of it, you know you're going to survive it, but you don't know at what cost. Like, all the stuff with him in that little realm, that place where he's there with his mother and he's reading the book, that's very much a life flashing before your eyes kind of a thing. And then you have that long road that's featureless that seems to reach off into infinity as though he's walking to his next life. And I'm just thinking, he's just being reflective. He's not actually dying. He's not dying. That's not how you say it. He's just recalling back. You know, this might well be at a later point. And now he's just thinking about, oh, heck, there he'll be drinking a lemonade, thinking about, oh boy, remember that time we fought All For One and Toma and how we all nearly died? That's not happening. And even without the prior knowledge of what was coming along here, be that spoilers, be that preview things, this is still going into all of this. This this fight wasn't a fight, really, when you think about it. It's All Might holding on for dear life and All For One playing with his food, effectively. If All For One really wanted to, he could have killed All Might at any moment, but he wanted him to suffer. He wanted him to go through the pain of all of this, either due to the hubris that he's been holding with himself for all the... Well, it's the desire for revenge that he's been holding within himself, and hubris. But here's a thing to consider: maybe this hubris is also enhanced by the fact that he's getting younger, and as such he's getting more reckless. So either way, you know, there he is, not finishing off All Might, which just makes the whole process even more painful, because it's just becoming closer and closer to a stop, he's already dead moment. All Might doing his best to just hold on for as long as possible, to try and hold All For One back as much as he can do, so that he can't merge with Tomura, just doing his absolute damnedest to hold all of this back. Then all of a sudden, from the shadows, everyone's favourite spree killer shows up. Well, not mine, not that I even have a favourite to begin with. And his presence in this episode ultimately goes pretty much as expected. Like, I thought that he might stick around for longer, all things considered. But at the end of the day, it all rolled out pretty much as one would expect it to. Like, I know that some people might not like the way that he ended, but I'm more than fine with it. I'm fine with the way that he died. He was robbed the death that he desired and wanted for himself, and instead he gets violently exploded by a major villain. And appropriately, there is no self-reflective moment of him realising just how much damage he's done to this world, or how much his philosophy has fucked this world over. No, he died as he lived, making everything needlessly more difficult for the heroes. Again, maybe he just stuck around for a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, he just bought All Might time before getting blown up like a blood-filled balloon. Like, it's just amazing just how much of the runtime of this episode is just spent with All Might holding on for dear life, either trying to find a way to etch a win out, or just finding a way and trying to hold out for longer. If last week he was running on fumes, this week he's getting out of that metaphorical car and pushing it down the bloody street. He has thrown everything into it, and despite everything, he's still trying to be a hero. Now, note the design of All Might. This is something I wanted to pick up and talk about last week, but I just didn't have time to talk about it, given just how bloody late it came out. But you'll notice that All Might's design has changed slightly here. Like, the dark void that you see around his eyes, that dark shadow that you see around his eyes, that's not here at the moment. I mean, you still have the dark rims around his eyes, almost in a way that almost looks like eyeshadow in a way, but just to still show that he's still frail, but the dark voids aren't there anymore, and metaphorically speaking, I think this is a sign that he's becoming the hero that he used to be, even if he still physically can't do it anymore. He is a hero. Being a hero is Toshinori's most natural state. Toshinori being All Might is like Bruce Wayne being Batman. It's almost like who they were always meant to be in the end. And now we're seeing All Might trying his best to be a hero again, despite at this moment all he really has to protect himself and to fight the bad guy is just the suit that he put on earlier this morning. Like, he's doing his absolute damnedest to buy as much time as possible for Midoriya, and as we get into the final embers of the episode, trying to deal that last bit of damage to blast all For One as far back into this as possible. And all this works, all this fear, all this apprehension works because of just how much I, and the audience more generally, but at least I, like the character of All Might. Like, when Stein dies, it's like GG no Riri. But when All Might dies, or the idea that he might die, it's like cancel my appointments, cancel my meetings, I'm going to spend the rest of the day in a dark room. Like, I like the character so much, I'm just so invested in him and the idea of what he represents for this world and for these characters. The idea that he could die in such a brutally horrific way terrifies me, especially bearing in mind that in the back of your head you're still echoing that you're going to die a horrible death from Sir Night Eye several seasons ago. So it's just this feeling of, okay, is this the moment where it's going to happen? Is the future really still set in stone? Like, it might not be. I mean, it can change. It can change as we established it, but is this the thing that's going to change? We don't know. And I just love just how I love and I hate the tension. I love the tension because it makes it a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting, but I also hate the tension because it's a case of don't hurt All Might. Moving on from that stuff, I love the art and design of this episode and the animation. I can't really talk about the animation that much this week because of the fact that I really would just be echoing stuff that I said last week for the most part, and the fact I'm echoing these headlines to begin with is something that, I don't like to do, but still, I just loved what we see here. And what I really like is the visual difference between All Might when he's there in that thoughtful space where he's looking back at his childhood, where he's having this almost life flashing before your eyes moment where he's in that big field and you got the cherry blossoms, you got all the flowers and just how bright and colourful that is, and you contrast that to the grim, nasty, dark visuals of the main event. Like that juxtaposition just shows just an almighty, no pun intended, just shift in tone and feeling. When All Might is in that thought space, it's him accepting his fate and accepting that his time is coming to an end. He accepts the fact that he doesn't have long left, and at this point he's just throwing as much as he can do to buy as much time as he can. And yet when he's brought back to reality, he's not being allowed that death or that sacrifice, in a similar kind of way in some regards to Stain, but at the same time, he still doesn't want to die, he still wants to remain there, so it's almost like this conflict in himself. Part of him wants to just let go and just step into the next life, but there's another part of him that just wants to keep fighting, and the reality of him fighting is harder now, given, he can't walk, and at this point all he has on is a suit and exploding gauntlet. The animation, the art design, it just heightens everything so bloody well. It makes everything have such a weight and impact and peril to everything. This is an episode of just sheer desperation from just about everybody, even All For One to certain degrees. Like, I'm blown away by this episode and how it's put together, how it's able to convey that mood and instill within you that sense of fear that everything's about to go horribly wrong. Even if you don't like All Might, you understand the significance of him falling at this particular moment. You understand the significance of him breaking down and what that means. If he cannot stay fighting for even a minute longer, it just brings All For One and Tomura closer to fusing or merging or whatever exactly they're going to do. So there is just this constant sense of peril, this funeral march towards All Might's execution, and you just have that moment, something almost resembles to echo Batman, that moment where Bane, back when they were first introduced, broke Batman's back. Just that shot, we've all seen it of when Batman gets broken over Bane's knee. And it just has that sense of just fear, that sense of horror, that sense of we are now at a point where we're stepping into something very, very different. We're stepping into a new era. We're seeing, or rather the world is seeing, just how frail and broken All Might really is. And given that he is the symbol of peace, it then represents just how broken the idea of peace is. That when All Might dies, if he dies, then that world that they once had is gone forever. Because at least in the mind of All For One, there is no one else that can possibly stop him. He sees Midori as being too emotionally weak and fragile to really stand much of a fight against him, especially not once he merges with Tomura. So this is getting into a very dark and terrifying moment for our heroes. And when we get to that final act, where everyone is throwing everything to try and stop All For One killing All Might tries to take himself out so at the very least he can make All For One weaker, that doesn't work. You have the American airmen coming along in their laser aircraft to try and just shoot the pair of them. Like they know it's going to kill All Might, and the X have to just accept the fact that Star and Stripe was inspired by All Might, and at the end of the day, if this boot was on the other foot, she'd want them to take that shot as well, and if All Might was able to say, yeah, take the shot, he'd say, take the shot. But they try and they fail, and you even got that gentle criminal going to try and chance his arm until the UA building continues to collapse on top of it. Like, to be fair, Gentle Criminal's the only one that was actually going to try and save All Might, probably. Everyone else was, right, we just got to kill All Might because it'll kill All For One, but They're all trying to stop him. They're all trying to stop him. All the while, All For One is trying to bait out Midoriya. He doesn't want anyone else to get to him except for him. It looks like, oh god, what's going to happen now? Is this going to be the thing that's going to break everything? Is All For One going to kill All Might? And is that going to be the thing that's going to break and shatter everything? Are our heroes truly doomed? And then, what do we see? Blinking and flickering off on into the distance. We see Bakugo waking up, locking eyes on All For One, and he's about to get to work. That is probably one of the best shots in this entire series, full stop. Just Bakugo getting up, looking like hell, locking eyes on the bad guy with a look of just absolute anger, rage, horror, and just hate towards that character, getting ready to fly over there to put an end to him in his own way. And we get that beautiful moment where we've got All Might, once again, he's walking down that long road to his next life or to the end or whatever. And we see behind him, as we've seen throughout the episode, these little glowing orbs of light. And there's a part of you that thinks, oh, these are representative of the previous wielders of One For All, right? But it isn't. It's like embers of hope. It's embers of inspiration. It's the glowing goodness that has come off of him, and we see Bakugo and Midoriya having taken that from them. He has passed the torch to another generation without really necessarily intending to. I mean, he did with Midoriya and with Bakugo and the other characters in his own way, but it was never quite so deliberate. Like, it was never a case of I'm training up Bakugo and I'm training up all these other characters to replace me. He was just trying to inspire them. And he ends up passing the torch to them. And they take this light away, and it turns into the trading card. Because it represents that whole idea, yet done in a way which is more true to those characters, but also makes it clear that what he's passing on is him. His identity is him. He's not passing on the torch. He's not passing on the light. He's passing on who he is, his message, his identity. He's not just making them heroes. He's making them the next generation of the symbol of peace. The ones that are going to save Japan and maybe the world. Even though in the movies it certainly saved the world more than once. But you get the idea. He's passing the torch in ways and means that he never really thought that he would do. And now those torch-wielding little so-and-sos are really, really gonna let All For One have it. And I am looking forward to see where that goes. With all that said, let us get into the negatives. And there's one minor thing we'll kick off with, and look, if I ever come to review of anything, and one of the things I'm criticising is the title, it's usually because it's like a very, very minor thing. I don't think I've ever criticised the title for being something more, we'll say, problematic and leave it at that, but one of the minor things is that the title change I'm not so keen on. Like, mostly, well, for two reasons, right? The pre-release title of this episode was The End of an Era and dash, or and ... depending which way you want to do it. Like, the end of an era and ... What's the next word going to be? What's the next word going to be? The release title, the one that you've got... Whoops, I'm demolishing the room as I'm saying this. The release title for the episode was The End of an Era and the Beginning. Right, it's great that all of us who watched it come out, and maybe when you read it, got the title of The End of an Era and as a mystery. Like, oh, what's this going to mean? What's this going to mean? So we all had this shared experience. Great, amazing, good. But one, the name itself isn't ambiguous enough to really carry a mystery. It frankly isn't. Like, we all know what that extra word's going to be. The end of an era, the beginning of the beginning either of the end or of the beginning. Like, given this is a superhero show, I don't think it's going to be beginning of the end of an era and the beginning of the end. It is going to be the beginning of a new thing. It's going to be optimistic, bright, hopeful. So, one, the title doesn't really have enough within it to cause a mystery. And the point of this episode itself is not to cause a mystery, it's to make us fearful, oh god, All Might's going to die. The second issue that I have, and this is a more personal thing, is that it makes the process of making thumbnails for this series a lot harder for me when an episode title changes. when this, like I say, the pre-release title was The End of an Era and Dash. Now, that means that when this video is compiling, I need to make a new set of thumbnails. Not just one, but 3 thumbnails at this point, which I'm not happy about, and I also need to re-edit the video title. Like, I do a lot of this stuff in advance to save as much time as possible, especially this week, bearing in mind it's my birthday, so I wanted to get all this stuff done and dusted so I can spend the rest of the day enjoying myself with my family, right? But whatever. Minor stuff, minor gripes. If I am to pick a more direct negative, one thing that I didn't like about the episode, I think the blood expulsion thing with All For One was a tad cheap. Like, I mean, we know Stain really wasn't going to be the thing that was going to twist this fight, and his time on this earth was limited, if we're being honest with ourselves. But let's be brutally honest, I don't think that All For One expelling all his blood is going to stop a villain whose superpower is drinking blood. Like, at that point, Stain isn't exactly spoilt for choice. Like, he's covered in this stuff. He just goes, okay, I'm going to stop you now. And then he just freezes in place. But I guess that doesn't work, because I guess that maybe the target needs, say, a flowing blood supply or something. Like, there's just that missing gap within all of that to properly explain it a little bit more, but whatever. With all that said and done, however, let's get into the overview and say that this was a bloody fantastic episode. No doubt from me, this was a brilliant episode, an amazing episode, and I'm really bloody excited to see what comes next. Any issues I have are ultimately minor. With all that said and done, however, let's get into Comment Corner! It's time for Comment Corner, the first one of this new season, and we come to Big X1, who says, I didn't think you were still reviewing this given how long it took. I love the episode, but I wish Yuga's story was its own episode. Thank you for your comment, and as I explained in the previous video, look, Crunchyroll really dropped the ball with this one to the point it's actually started to get reported in some media outlets. Not like major ones, but in some areas of just how, holy crap, why the hell did you bungle this so hard? One of the biggest releases this year and you bungled it that hard? Anyway, yeah, I agree that stuff with Aoyama could have been its own episode. I don't know where that would go though, given after watching this week's episode. Maybe it was something that could have started the season, I'm not 100% sure, but still, thanks for your comment. Next up, we have Scott TV Gamer, who says, overall, very happy with the episode, even though half was a recap, and you were right about the title. It was the name of the chapter adapted at the end of last season, but I think it still was too good of a title not to use it if it's a bit late. Also can't confirm since I watched it elsewhere, but I heard Crunchyroll using AI for the subtitles for this episode when it actually came out, which were apparently inaccurate. Thought you should know just in case it happens with future episodes, assuming they're released on time. Thank you for your comment, and yeah, I know about the Crunchyroll AI translation thing. Look, it makes no sense to me, bearing in mind that, yeah, I know that in some cases they'll like use the simulcast script for the initial release, even if it is just the initial release, but the fact that there aren't official subtitles that have been translated ahead of time for this, bend my head. Like, there's no excuse for it. No, in no world should a piece of televised media not have subtitles ready for it. The only way it shouldn't be the case is with new stuff. That's my philosophy with it. Like, if it's something that was made months ago, that you have more than enough time with a written script, you should have subtitles ready to go. It shouldn't be a thing of, we need to use AI for this. You have more than enough time. But that's a rant for a whole of a time that goes into places that aren't really within the realms of this channel. But still, thank you for your comment. From what I could see, there were no, from what I could see, glaring issues with the subtitles. But with that said, you know, we'll have to be vigilant for that, because AI solves everything now, I suppose. Oh, and of course, just as I look on YouTube now, they got auto AI dubbing things for videos now, so God help us all. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this episode down in the comment section down below. Thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!